was sharing with my family my stories. It was not written, it was no manuscript. It was just that I would go and I'd sit down with my sisters and I'd share with them the story of the Zonklis. And they kept saying, please write it, please write it. So I did. In the first book, you meet um, a Zonkli, but she doesn't know that she's a Zonkli. And actually, what happens is that she has a child, and that child that was born out of wedlock is left behind. And she is an heiress to one of the largest cosmetic companies in the world. And she never looks back because the conception was so horrific. And the person that was the biological father was a real piece of nothing. So at any rate, that's a part of the story. So there's this baby that's left in a orphanage and is eventually raised in South Central Los Angeles because she is her biological parents, one Jewish and the other Black. And she grows up around really phenomenal people. And then at 12, her life changes because her biological mother comes back to get her. Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, and I grew up in a part of East LA, and then I went to West LA, went to a high school that was phenomenal, went to UCLA. You would think that I haven't traveled at all, but I have. And that's the good news. But I did grow up in Los Angeles. My first jobs were in Los Angeles, etc. There's no real villain and there's no real heroine or hero. It is just people being people with all the baggage that we have. So that's a part of it. And then their gifts and powers, their ability to move through time and space, their ability to self-heal. And there is always the fact that our main characters are pure good and are, well, others are not so good. In fact, they're dedicated to destroying mankind, and Zankli. First of all, we are the result of whatever came before us. I am fascinated by Ancestor.com. In fact, my sister and I spent some time looking into our background just recently. Just fascinating. So that is a part of visiting the past and looking toward the future. So that whole thing of travel through time is something that I've always thought about. What happened before I got here? What did they feel? What did they think? So that's a part of the book. All of them have abilities to go back. In Lost Love, we're talking about really basically as far back as her great-grandfather. But in book 2, Captured Love, we actually go back 3,000 years. And the fact that I show that the connections are really just there. We're all connected. Now, I know that we knew and we heard that religiously all along. We're each other's brother and we each other's sister. You've always heard that. But there is truth in it. And so when you think about how related we are, then you begin to understand that we all feel the same things: pain, love, fear. We feel those same things. Yes, I do. And I think that people want to know about their ancestry and they want to know who came before. You know, when we think of the Old West, we think of this Hollywoodized Old West. Well, actually, they smelled. They weren't able to stay as clean as we think. Their food was surrounded by flies, things that we would never think of. Yes, that all happened in the past. And it's okay, we survived because we're here today. At a certain point, especially when I was writing the prologue to book 2, that I was channeling. I really felt that I was reliving someone's history. And so that was a surprise to me. I had had the Zonkli saga floating around in my mind for over 20 years. I decided I'm going to put this story to pen. I'm going to create a manuscript. I am going to write this book about these super beings, this species that is dedicated to the safety and the grace of mankind. Yes, we all have parts of good and parts of friskiness. Sex is a part of life, and it can truly be beautiful. I really wanted to show in many cases the difference between love and lust. Because in my era, sex was just basically made to be very bad. I don't remember my mom or my grandmother ever talking to me about sex. I've written the fourth book, and it will be out hopefully in March. I also have started a book called Aging Fantastically, and by the grace of God, it will be out in December 2020. And I also want to make sure that I'm have a quality life in terms of health. As I was just looking at a 101-year-old roll her little walker up to the voting booth and vote. I think it was yesterday. And I said, well, that's aging fantastically. I really, really think that that's what we all want. No one minds aging. You know you're going to do that. And it definitely isn't for sissies. Aging is not for sissies because there's some things that just come along with it. However, you want to do it fantastically. You can get them on Amazon, and they are in hardcover, they're paperbacks, and also ebooks. And by the first of the next year of the 2021, you should be able to have audible books. I'm so appreciative, really, to be on your show and to have an opportunity to introduce your listeners to the Zankli Chronicles. It is very salacious, but the good news is I do have a vocabulary without using a lot of profanity or just, I say it's naughty but not nasty. It's mjduffy.com or Zankli Chronicles, Zankli spelled Zankli, Chronicles.com. There is a test that you can take at the very beginning to determine if you're a Zankli. And I can tell you, those who have dreams and aspirations, you are a Zankli. We're going to do the same thing virtually to show the diversity of the Zankli. Everything from Africa to America, the Americas to Europe. We have different places that the story traverses. That story goes everywhere. One, in book 3, we have our Zankli hidden away in Scandinavia. And so you see the relationship between book 3 and book 1, where his name was Callahan, Josh Callahan, falls in love with a Zankli princess. What he does not know at that time is that he is a Zankli descendant also. Zanklis are all over the world, and the Zankli experience is of people and places that's all over the world.